Good morning, everyone. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. Please note that when you join the meeting via Zoom, all participants will be placed in the waiting room and your microphone will be muted until the host lets you in the room. You can follow the hearing live via the City's Board of Revision YouTube channel. When your property is called upon, you will be allowed from the waiting room and permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once you've been heard, you can leave the meeting and continue to watch the hearing live via the City's Board of Revision YouTube channel. If any participants are currently watching the live meeting on YouTube, please mute your audio player now. I would like to introduce the members of the panel for today's hearing. Zooming in on the board is Tracy Anderson and Marla Billingquist. My name is Brent McIntyre and I'll be the chair. The assessors for today are Jennifer Martins and Barca Adarkmatov, and our secretary is Kara Balshaw. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at the hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's orders. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with the property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decisions by registered mail as soon as possible. All public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. And having said all of that, Kara, I guess you can swear in the applicants.
Okay, so I'll do Madam Assessor first. Sure. For the record, please state your name.
Jennifer Martins.
Do you affirm the evidence you'll present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And Mr. Applicant, for the record, please state your name.
Excuse me.
Are you looking for Lyle?
I am.
Oh, you're looking for me?
Yes. Can you please state your name for the record?
Lyle Albert Rack.
Thank you. And do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And the first property on the docket is 653 Mcmillan Avenue. And Jennifer, you're representing.
Yeah.
Right. You're representing the City of Winnipeg?
Yes, I am.
And Lyle, you're representing the applicant?
Correct.
And we'll call this matter to order. And Jennifer, you may proceed with your evidence.
Okay. This is 653 Mcmillan Avenue, roll number 12022146000. This is an apartment building. It's one building, 3 stories. There's 6 suites in the building, and it was built in 2020. The plan area is 2,228 square feet with a gross floor area of 6,684 square feet. Page 2 shows some sales, but those are before this building was built. On page 3, we have our income value summary. And it shows that there are 6 two-bedroom units. The average monthly rent per unit we have at $1,813.60, which gives us a gross potential rent of $130,579. There's a vacancy rate of 2.4%. We have an expense rate at 41.59%, which gives us an NOI of $74,441. And we've applied a 4.2% capitalization rate, which gives us our estimated market value of $1,772,000. On page 4, we have some rent comparables. It shows that their average monthly rent per unit ranges from $1,557 to $2,143. On page 5, we have our capitalization rate chart. And it shows that for low rise for the city of Winnipeg, it ranges from 4% to 7.3%. On page 7, there's a map displaying the location of the property on Mcmillan between Hugo and Daly. And then page 8 through 10, there's some pictures. 8 through 10, there's some pictures of just the site plans for the property. Page 11, we have the declared construction value is on the permit, and that is of $900,000. And page 12 to 15 is a project overview of this building where it's described as a luxury apartment building on the block of Winnipeg's best strip for food, drink, and social fun. So it's just describing the benefits of this project and what a lovely project it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Lyle, do you have any questions?
Yes, on page 5, underneath the city of Winnipeg, basically you've got within the 20th to 80th percentile. At the 20th percentile, the multifamily is 4.9%, correct?
Correct.
And on your income valuation on page 3, is the rent and the expenses and the cap rate, were those all computer generated?
Yes, they were.
Okay, those are all my questions.
Thank you. Tracy, do you have any questions?
No, thank you. I have no questions at this time.
Thank you. And Marla?
No questions.
And I have no questions. So we'll proceed, Lyle, to your evidence.
Okay. As you can see on page 1, that's a picture of the building. On page 2, that's the assessor's income valuation. So again, 6 suites at $18,1360. Expenses are 41.59%. Cap rate's 4.2, which the assessor went over. So if you go up to page 3, you'll see basically an email from the owner, and basically since it was built in 2020, I think the first tenant was in there in September. So they've basically given me what the expenses are that they've encountered up until today. And you'll see monthly it's $2,330. And the total annual expenses are $27,960. And then there's a breakup per month. So if you look at page 4, you'll see that they first started out using this as like a not a bed and breakfast, they call it an Airbnb. In other words, they were trying to rent fully furnished units to people that would rent them instead of renting in a hotel. So that was their first attempt at renting the places. And they were trying to get $1,900 a month furnished for months with no success. So basically what they did is they went down back to market rent and they just rented the suites out. The owner stated that basically all the furniture they have is on Kijiji, and they're trying to get rid of it. So on the bottom there, you'll see advertisements for rent, fully furnished, 653 Mcmillan, and that's from rentwinnipeg.com was advertising that. And you can see on page 5, that's what they had advertised. And you'll see that they have the fully furnished suites at $1,900, and then $1,200 for an unfurnished suite. And then if you go to the next page, page 6, you'll see the other 2 bedrooms. They're a little larger. We're renting for $1,300. Parking was $75 a month. And you'll see that the features, what's included, and internet was included. If you go to page 7, this is from the owner, their website. And again, you'll see pictures inside and outside. And you'll see at the bottom, it says rents furnished at $1,900 a month, unfurnished $1,200 to $1,300. So in this location, the tenant actually pays for a hydro, heat, water, and parking. That's not included. So if you look at the next page, page 8, so this argument revolves around rent, expenses, and cap rate. So basically, the valuation date is April 1st, 2018. And since the apartment did not exist at the time, rents and expenses will be calculated applying the actual rents from fall of 2020 and estimating the expenses for a full year based on the information given to me, their current expenses. So therefore, the rents have increased by allowable from the residential tenancies branch, and the calculated value will be slightly higher since we're looking at April 1st, 2018. I'm using the numbers from 2020. So you'll see that here's the cap rates. And basically, if you look at the cap rates from Colliers, multifamily Q1 of 2018 was 5%. So you go to the next page, page 9, and you'll see that the assessment department does not actually use cap rates for sold properties. Capitalization rates for sold properties are calculated by dividing the model-generated NOI estimates. That's the model. By sale prices and time adjusting to April 1st, 2018. Analysis of these rates results in the model capitalization rates ranging from 4% to 7.3%. Capitalization rates for most properties, that's most properties, range from 4.9 to 5.3%, the 20th and 80th percentiles. Going beyond those percentiles, the 20th and 80th are not really representative market. And if the department doesn't supply the actual sale of the property and the information revolved around that property as far as what the owner paid, what the model generated, the rents, there's no way to determine whether or not the actual cap rates that they've generated from using model-generated rents are actually true and representative of the market. So the department's using a cap rate of 4.2% because it's a new building. I'm using the 20th percentile at 4.9%. Department's expense allowance is 41.59%, and that basically is under the assumption that it's a gross rent, but the subject property, they pay for heat, electricity, or water, so the expenses are therefore lower. For my calculation, I'm using a gross income, and I'm using the estimated expenses at 30% based on the actual. So I'm going to apply 30% expenses for a deduction. You go to page 10, you'll see the workup of the gross income, and that's $1,200 a month for 2-bedroom, for 2, and for 4, $1,300. You take the expenses that have been given to me, which represents expenses over September to present day, and you're getting $27,960. At the bottom there, you'll see the potential gross income is $96,600. I'm using the department's 2.4% for vacancy. The department uses 41.59% for expenses. I'm using 30. The cap rate they use is 4.2. I'm using 4.9%. You get a value of $1,347,000. So if you go to the next page, you'll see, as I said, they're using it as an air bed and breakfast. Well, there's a little description of what an air bed and breakfast is, and basically they supply air beds. That's why they call it that. So it was basically first established on some of the suites to try to make it cheaper than a hotel. That didn't work out. So you'll see basically the purchase price, $300,000 for the property. The permit value that was given to me was $800,000, and the demo cost is $20,000, which, as you'll see at the bottom there, it's $1.12 million, and I have it's not confirmed. So with the actual information from the permit that the assessor has, we're looking at a value for demolition and for build for $900,000. They paid $340,000, so we're getting an actual value of $1,240,000. I'm asking for $1 million. Can you hear me?
Sorry, you cut off right at what you were asking for.
What? Yeah, it just happened. I don't know why. I didn't touch anything. So did you hear me on page 10?
When you were going through the expenses?
Okay, I'll go to page 10, valuation. So basically you can see on the top there that the valuation, actual rents is $96,600. The operating expenses, which are based on the actual from September to today, is $27,960. So you're getting, I'm using the department's 2.4% vacancy, 30% expenses, the actual, and the city's using 41.59. I'm using 4.9% for cap rate. The city's using 4.2. So I'm using $1,347,000 for the value. The actual value paid is $340 plus $900,000 to demo the building. So the actual amount that they've invested in that property is $1.24 million. I want $1,347,000, which is $107,000 over and above what's invested in the property. So if you go to the next page, you'll see the air bed and breakfast. That's what they originally started off as, cheaper than a hotel. That didn't work. So you get a purchase price there from the email, $300,800 for the permit, $20,000 for demolition, and at the bottom you'll see that 1.12 is not confirmed. So the actual valuation, as I just went through, from the permit from the assessor would be $1,240,000. And again, I'm asking for $1,347,000, which is $107,000 difference. Oh, sorry. Geez, for some reason I have some pages missing. Uh-oh. Do you have pages beyond?
No.
Nothing beyond page 10?
We have 11 pages in your brief.
So the last page is the $1,120,000 not confirmed?
Correct.
Oh. I sent you the wrong brief. That's not good. Because basically the brief I was supposed to send you actually has pictures of actually the suites and what they rent for not fully furnished. Oh, this is good. So basically they have unfurnished. They never rented them as for furnished at $1,900. They basically rented them for $1,200 and $1,300. Let's go back to page 4, and you'll see an email. And that email in the middle, it says, so it says, "Hey Jordan, I spoke to the marketing and leasing tenants teams involved 633 Mcmillan. The project was originally an Airbnb It said it started at $90, $99 a night, lowered to $65 per night for short and long-term stays. We tried $1,900 a month, furnished for many months, no success. The rate might be floating around there, but it's never achieved. I could have management company rent Winnipeg provide a rent roll to support this. It eventually went back to the original affordable rent of $1,200 for the main floor and $1,300 for the upper floors. This is what the project actually achieved during the COVID lockdown when we went to market. The furnished suites never worked, and there's still furniture and storage being sold as a result. And I thought my error that I had actual from their website advertising for $1,200 and $1,300 a month rent. So that's what's being. That's what I've based my valuation on, is the actual what they've been achieving. That's. I apologize for that, but I did have pictures of those rents, the suites, and what they rented for. So I guess that's it for my presentation, unfortunately.
I just have one question of clarification. So on page 5, you've got a picture of the building, and then you've got a picture of the floor plans. Where is that information from?
Page 5. Just one sec here. Page 5, that came from a website that came from rentwinnipeg.com. That was something the owner had on his computer, but it's no longer being advertised.
Okay, that was my only clarification question. Is that your presentation?
That's correct.
Thank you. Jennifer, any questions?
Yes. Just briefly, on page 3, the expenses
Yes.
listed there, are those all actual expenses, not budgeted?
Yes, that's what they've basically, what it's been costing them since September.
Okay. And the landscaping, that's all like maintaining the landscaping, not putting in.
That's correct. That's, yes, cutting the grass, etc.
Okay. Now on page 4, it mentions providing a rent roll. Did you happen to get a rent roll?
No, I don't have a rent roll. I have the email and the basic, the information for that was provided to me by the landlord.
Okay, thank you. And on page 9, when you mentioned that most properties range from 4.9 to 5.3 between the 20th and 80th percentiles, this property is built in 2020, so it's newer than the majority of the properties in Winnipeg. It's also considered a luxury apartment building and is described as being in one of the better neighborhoods, more attractive due to the features around it. Would you perhaps agree that this may be a more desirable property than most of the properties that might be on the market in Winnipeg right now?
No, not really. I mean, they're advertising. They're not going to say it's an average property. They're trying to basically, promote it. And if you look at, if you look at the city's 20th percentile at 4.9%, Collier's is at 5, BRE is at 5.5, and Cushman is at 5, and they use good properties to come up with their cap rates, actual cap rates. So you're looking at an average about 5.1%. So I'm using the 20th percentile, which is 4.9%, which I think is reasonable. And then when you look at how much money they've invested in the property, and I'm asking for $107,000 over that. I mean, anything over the above that is unreasonable. You don't build a property and all of a sudden make $500,000, $500,000 on it once you build it.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Tracy, any questions?
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Marla?
No questions.
And I have no questions. So that concludes 653 Mcmillan. Thank you, Lyle, and thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
There are some rebuttal items that will come up in this next week.
But we don't have them?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm waiting for them to be spoken. Okay.
So, Mr. Assessor, for the record, can you please state your name?
Arkay Derkhanov.
Do you affirm the evidence you'll present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Applicant, if you could please state your name for the record?
Marcelo Navarro.
Do you affirm the evidence you'll present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next property on the docket is 55 Fultz Boulevard. And Arca, you can start with your presentation.
So, Board of Revision file number 21-19, applicant Altos Group Limited. Roll number for subject property is 0309 3005910. Address 55 Fultz Boulevard. Owners 7314290 Manitoba Limited. Roll under appeal is 2021. Reference date April 1st, 2018. Assessed value $9,962,000. Okay, subject property is a what they call the VCD, which is complete auto dealer. Building was built in 2019. Wall height about 20 feet. Plan area 51,662 square feet. Gross floor area is 56,162 square feet. I guess assessed value per square foot would be $177.38. Okay, I ask the panel to confirm the 2021 assessment value of $9,962,000. Following on the next page are aerial view of the subject property. Subject property is located on Fultz Avenue, and it's backing into a Bishop Grandin in a hub of the dealerships on just a second. Okay. Sorry, my computer just freezing up a bit. It's not moving. Okay, next page, come on. Okay, so sorry about that. Lower on the same page are the exterior view of the subject property. Jim Pattison Subaru, and following pages also show us the pictures of the interior. We see a reception area as well as a showroom area for the new car dealership, and the mezzanine area office as well. So the finish of the subject, it's as I said, it's a new car dealership with what would appear a tiled floor, suspended ceiling, office areas, showroom areas. Okay, following on page 4, we can see the garage area of the vehicle service area of the dealership. Again, we see tiled floor, garage doors. It is equipped with hoists and I guess with hoists and other equipment to service vehicles. Okay, so that would be page 4 and page 5. So going on to, we can skip page 6. That's I guess blank information not relevant to subject property. Page 7 are the rent comparables. Vehicle service garages are there is no direct rent comparables when it comes to vehicle service garages in this market in the Winnipeg. So what city does is they employ a combination approach to arrive at comparables, where we have retail comparables, and that is as well as vehicle service related comparables. So retail comparables are on page number 7, and they are comparables from comparable 1 to comparable 27. So those are various retail outlets in the cities, such as Staples, Best Buy, and so on. And there we see average price per square foot of $18.86. Weighted average 18.05, and the median is 18.29. Following 4 comparables are vehicle related. Comparable number 28 is MPI on Main Street. And there, again, we have average of 17.54, weighted average of 18.27, and median of 16.25. Now we're moving on page 8 is calculation of value of subject property based on income, where we take 56,162 square feet of subject property. We apply one rate of $13.33, which all-inclusive rate that includes all of the areas of the dealership and bundles it up together. With the vacancy loss of 2%, expenses of 2% and shortfall of $6, with cap rate of 7.15%, the calculated assessed value is $9,962,000. Okay, following page again is income value summary, which is basically a repeat of the previous page. Okay, to support income, we can also look at sales comparables, what vehicle dealerships that have sold are there. And we can see there that sale price ranges anywhere from $161.79 per square foot to $375 per square foot. Followed on page 11 is a construction permit for the subject property, and the declared construction value is $12 million, which is way more than $9,962,000 assessed value. Then we have cap rate study, and again, City of Winnipeg applied cap rate of 7.15% on subject property. When we look at office cap rates, again, Colliers have it at 6.5 to 7.25% cap rate. So 7 to 5 being higher cap rate for higher risk older buildings, and 6.5 would be for less risk investment. Again, subject property is a brand new building, so it would be on the lower end of the cap rates. Again, when we look at first two columns are City of Winnipeg, again 6.2 to 7.3 on the second column, and all-inclusive cap rates are 5.5 to 9.05. If we look at the industrial cap rates, again, City of Winnipeg 5.4 to 8.60. Well, actually, Yeah, well, overall it's going to be 1.4 to about 9.4 all-inclusive cap rates. Coilers places between 6% to 7.5. Again, applied cap rate of 7.15 is meets the criteria in that respect as well. Okay, following page are municipal assessment excerpts and from the Municipal Assessment Act. Fresh look is City of Winnipeg applying 2% non-recoverable expenses, and the fresh look on pages 14 down would provide us why it does it. And I want to focus board's attention on page 18 of the report that provides 29 comparables and their non-recoverable expenses. With that in mind, a 1.06% median is calculated. That's a median of non-recoverable expenses for those 29 comparables. And City of Winnipeg is using 2%. Okay. So with that, I would like to continue. I did have a chance to review applicants' presentation, and I just want to make a couple of notes based on that before I turn it over to applicant.
You need to take a break?
I don't. Do you? Sorry, Mr. Chairman, did you ask me or anybody? Everybody else?
You needed to make some notes?
No. I just wanted to point out some keynotes from applicant's presentation before I turn it over to.
Yeah, but he hasn't made his presentation
Oh,
yet.
Okay.
So you can make those questions after he's completed his.
Okay. All right. Then I would, with that, I would like to, I would like to open it up for questions.
Okay, Marcello?
Yeah. The first question I have is, have you been in this building?
I have not personally inspected the subject property.
Okay. And are you aware of what portion of the building is retail versus service areas? So that would be parts and any other auto-related service areas. So the separation between the front retail and office areas and the back service areas. Do you know what the rough split is?
I cannot say it right off the top of my head. I don't have that information.
Okay. And going further through your brief, in terms of your new or fresh look or new look, I forget what the term is that you used. On page 18 in particular, the total median is 1.06 of these properties, correct?
Correct.
And I'm sure that the city observed many more than just 29 examples of this, correct?
I would have to assume it. Well, I would have to assume that there is way more, but the city is using those 29 examples for the purpose of the presented at the Board of Revision.
And yet the city used 2% rather than 1.06 or 1%, correct?
Yes, which gives slightly, which gives it slightly more non-recoverable expense portion.
Okay. And you do show some that are as high as 5, and I'm sure that there are some that are even higher, correct?
Well, this particular report does show higher than 5. I would probably want to stick to this 29 comparables. I don't want to go and speculate on what if there is maybe something higher or not. But yeah,
this was a sample that was taken of 29.
Correct.
Okay. Those are my only questions relating to this. There is a rebuttal also, though.
I will send the rebuttal now.
And I had a rebuttal to the rebuttal.
Yes. Let's start with one of those. It should be there for you now.
Yes, it is. Has everybody got under item 3 applicant rebuttal?
I've just now sent the email to the 2 panel members and to the assessor.
Okay, is that a 4-page document?
That's correct.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay. With reference to the assessor's rental rates on page 7, you'll note that the auto use area, there are 2 leases there, one for 1284 Main Street and one for 2537 Pembina Highway. Now, if you go through this document, the first one is the actual sales document that is submitted by the purchaser, Jim Pattison Group, on this, on the sale of the property. Now, you're probably asking why submit something on the sale. Well, because it also provides other information. So one of the more important things that I honed in on in terms of their response to the city's sales questionnaire was that, was this an arm's length open market transaction? Their response was no. Now, if you go down to question number 8, is there a single lease covering any or all of the buildings? No. Now, our understanding is that lease that was quoted in the assessor's brief was not an actual lease, but rather a book lease. And that has always been our understanding. So I would offer to say that that lease is actually not a relevant lease. Now, the second one pertains to 1284 Main Street. And as you can see, the assessor has an area of 20,225 square feet. This was taken out of the assessor's brief for 1284 Main Street. And you can see in their workup that they had actually 44,000 square feet of leasable area. So we know that that lease amount is actually the dollar value of the lease amount is correct, but the leasable area is not. So it should work out to a lower amount. So in that sense, we say that that lease is actually not relevant either. That's my points. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one question.
Okay.
Before ARCA gets in here. The sale price was agreed upon January 2012, yet the sale date is March 17th, 2017.
Yeah. So I would say that nothing about this sale actually makes sense. And I know that the business was actually owned by Jim Pattison while it was still called Frontier Pembina or Frontier Subaru.
Okay, ARCA, do you have any questions? Or is your rebuttal dealing with his rebuttal?
Actually, no. The rebuttal that I submitted is dealing, I guess, with a different rebuttal. I can speak to this. In light of the information that I have reviewed, I would probably ask the panel members not to consider comparable number. Is it 31? Let me just double check. 25, 37 Pamela. Yeah, not to consider comparable number 31 as valid comparables. Again, I will have to update my list. This list was prepared and the standard list that standard comp sheet that was used by the city. I'll have to update it. As far as 1284 Main Street goes, we've been over. I've been over this at the Board of Revision a couple of times at least. The area of the building is indeed about 44,000 square feet. However, when income and expense mailer arrives every year, it arrives with area that is being under lease is 20,225. That's where that value comes in. That's all I have to say in response in regarding to 1284 Main Street.
Hey, Tracy, do you have any questions on the rebuttal?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Marla?
No questions.
And I have no further questions. So, Arca, what's your rebuttal related to? Not this document?
No, I guess Alto submitted a non-recoverable expense rebuttal within the original submission. Therefore, I did submit non-recoverable expense rebuttal to the rebuttal to that. I guess it's a standard long, like 70-some pages document that have been floating around back and forth.
Okay, so until we hear Marcello's presentation, that's what your rebuttal is directed at?
Yes, it's directed at Marcello. If at the rebuttal regarding non-recoverable expenses.
Okay, I think I've got it now. So Marcello, do you want to make your presentation right now?
Yeah, I'll present my brief, and then I can answer any questions on his rebuttal or any questions on the brief also.
Okay, proceed.
Okay, yeah. We'll turn to page 1. As you can see, this is 55 Fultz Boulevard. On page 2, you can see the summary of the assessment or assessment information, and the requested amount is $8,665,000. You can see a property site map. So entrance into this location in the map on page 3, I've drawn those dotted circles there. These are the paths taken to actually enter this dealership. So the original intent was to be part of the Waverly West Auto Mall, but because of a disagreement between the two parties, that was not accomplished. Again, they purchased this parcel of land and thinking that they would be part of the Waverly West Auto Park, but in the end didn't end up being part of the Waverly West Auto Park. So they had to basically purchase a parcel of land from the city to gain access into Fultz. And Fultz is, as you can see, you have to enter either through Scurfield or Dovercourt, or take Waverly to Scurfield and then Henlow. It's an industrial park. It's visible through by Bishop Brandon. There is a large sign there, but in order to access it, you have to take the route around and go through one of these routes here that I've outlined. So as you can see, it was built in 2019. It includes a mezzanine, 56,162 square feet in total size. This is an auto dealership. The large majority of the front portion is retail and office, and the larger portion of the overall dealership is actually what I would deem more industrial areas, and these would be parts areas, car wash, paint booths, detailing areas, and the vehicle servicing areas. Now, as you can see, the subject site is zoned M2. There is no direct access again, which is a slight disadvantage. Again, the thinking was originally that, or the motivation for purchasing this parcel of land was that they would be part of the Waverly West Auto Mall, but they are not. Access to the Waverly West has actually been blocked off now. And again, the total land area is 378,973 square feet and has a land to building ratio of 6.48. The highest and best use is as the dealership. An analysis, we are looking at, this is not 2020, but we are looking at 2021 with a reference date of April 1, 2018. The purchase to value that I've used is the income approach as the assessor has. On page 8, you can see some of the comparable leases that I've looked at. There are some industrial leases in there, retail leases, and auto vehicle use leases. In terms of vacancy, I've used 2.5%. Again, these are taken from industrial variables and they are taken directly from the assessment guidelines. I'll call it book. So for 2020, the assessment department said that for an industrial property, the vacancy rate in this area should be 2.5%. That is what I used. Shortfall of 3.75. Non-recovered expenses, 2% plus 5%, that is 7%. And a capitalization rate of 7.25. Here is on page 10, my income approach summary. As you can see, the vast majority of the building, the 42,693 square feet, is actually not retail office area. It is actually those vehicle service areas that are either car wash, paint booths, detailing areas, and service areas. And so we get to a rent of $12.44, vacancy of 250, shortfall 375, non-recoverable expenses of 7%, and a cap rate of 7.25, coming to an income value of $8,664,645, round to $8,665,000. If you move to the appendix, you can see some of the pictures that I took. These are outside pictures. There is the connection to the Waverly West Auto Mall. You can see on page, it would actually be the second picture in the appendix. And my reason for taking that picture is to note that this, again, access has been blocked off. There is no access to the Waverly West Auto Mall. That is an important point. This was originally intended to be part of the Waverly West Auto Mall, and that was their motivation for purchasing in that area. But again, because of a disagreement, I guess, between the two parties, that access was not granted. The rest are pictures, and there is also a rough sketch of the areas there, and also the zoning information. Again, the zoning information is important because, again, this is zoned M2. So there are a lot of activities that are not actually applicable in this type of zoning. For example, the assessor has some leases that would actually not be allowed in this area because of the M2 zoning. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Orca, any questions?
Okay. Yeah, Marcello, you are using, I guess, would you agree with me that the subject property is a brand new building built in 2019?
Well, yes.
Okay. You mentioned that larger parts of the buildings are industrial in use. Are there any parts of the building? Why would you consider? I guess, are there any parts of the building where they manufacture parts or manufacture vehicles?
Actually, you can look at the industrial use policy or the zoning policy, and vehicle use is under industrial. And industrial doesn't mean heavy industrial as in manufacturing. You know that there are M1, M2, M3. M3 refers to industrial manufacturing on a large scale. So your question is not even relevant.
Okay, I'll rephrase it. The subject property consists of office and vehicle-related parts of the building where they do vehicle services such as repairs and I guess okay. So then would you consider that best comparables to use is retail and vehicle service related, not warehouses?
All right. So I looked at warehouses. I'm not necessarily saying that I used warehouses. You can see in my comparable list on page 8 and 9, there are 3 sets of sales there, or leases, pardon my language. So there are vehicle use, there are retail leases, and there are industrial leases. Now, the industrial leases that I'm looking at are, for example, not necessarily industrial warehouses. So, for example, 1301 Kenniston is not your typical industrial warehouse. It's a flex warehouse. It has office areas. It's a very nice industrial complex. But given that, you can see that my lease rates actually have no, they're not really comparable to that listing of industrial leases. I mean, those industrial leases have an average of 741 and a median of 775. You can tell that I've drawn more from the retail leases that I've looked at and the vehicle use leases to come up with my lease rates.
Okay. All of the comparables that did you make any adjustments for age when you did your comparables?
Typically, we don't do any adjustment for ages. Do you?
The model actually, when it does value, it does. But would you agree with me that newer buildings would typically be in less risk in maintenance, upkeep, and so on, would tend to generate higher rate per square foot than, let's say, a 40-year-old building?
In terms of maintenance?
In terms of rate per square foot.
Could you restate that question?
Okay. Would you agree with me that newer buildings generate higher rate per square foot than on older buildings?
I think that's logical.
Okay. And the most newest building in your vehicle sales comparables is 1992, which is almost 30 years older than subject property. Would you agree with me with that?
Yes, but you're not looking at the full scope of what I've done here. So there are older properties in that list of vehicle use leases, okay? Granted, you're right. However, in terms of their rate per square foot, is reflective of much, much smaller areas. You're looking at 5,600 square feet, 3,900 square feet, 3,000 square feet. There is a 12,000 square foot one there for 1,375. Again, these are much smaller areas. So they would typically derive a much lower rent per square foot, a much higher rent per square foot. So the smaller the area, the higher the rent per square foot. So we're dealing with a dealership that is 56,000 square feet in total. But I mean, in terms of the areas that I've separated off for non-office and retail areas, that's 44,000 square feet. There's nothing in this spreadsheet in these comparables that comes close to that. In fact, there's nothing in your comparables that comes close to that. So there is definitely difficulty coming up with rates for, say, a flex warehouse area or a industrial or a vehicle use area that large. And I think that's probably where you can probably draw from the industrial leases somewhat, because again, 1301 Kenniston is a very nice building. It's a flex warehouse, but it's office and other uses. So in that sense, I think it's comparable, and you can draw some inspiration from that.
But again, would you have? Okay, sorry, my page just ran away from me. Okay. But again, for the most part, subject property, as we have stated, is office and vehicle related. Would you agree with me on that? Or you have already agreed with me on that? So, okay.
The smaller portion of this building is office and retail, and that's where I've made the large adjustment. I mean, you can't say that I haven't adjusted for those retail and office areas. It's $17 per square foot that I've put in.
But then again, would you agree with me on that industrial buildings typically are industrial and they're not, for the most part, directed at a large customer traffic, whereas vehicle dealerships, retails, or vehicle-related
so where's your large customer traffic here? Again, this property was intended to be part of the Waverly West Auto Mall. I kept on reminding everyone.
Yes, and I wouldn't.
It's not. So.
Well, it is and it isn't, right? It's like kind of over the hedge.
But I think we understand where it is.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess. That's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tracy, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. And Marla?
No questions.
I just have one on page 8 referencing 1301 Kenniston. Your chart is showing that there's no finish in that building, so is it just one big warehouse?
No, it's 100% finished. It's just a mistake in that. I know the property. It's actually an industrial flex warehouse. It has office areas. It has other storage areas. So in that sense, it's comparable to what we're looking at.
So the 0% is not correct?
No, it's not correct.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question. Arka, do you want to introduce your rebuttal at this point?
I guess, yes, we can go with it.
Hey, Tracy and Marla, do you have Arka's, and Marcello, do you have Arka's rebuttal?
I don't.
Just sent by email. You have an opportunity to refresh your inbox.
If you, I don't know if the board would allow us to have maybe a 10-minute break or a 5-minute break before we get into this rebuttal.
So you've sent the rebuttal?
Yes. Do you want to just confirm that you've received it before we take a short break?
Okay.
I've just received it, yes. Is it the 75-page rebuttal package?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Thank you.
Can we do about a 10-minute break?
Okay, we'll reconvene at 10:20.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, we'll reconvene the hearing and we'll hear from the assessors and his rebuttal package. Okay, Arca, you can proceed.
Should we tell him he's muted?
Oh yeah, I can see the little X. Arca, you're muted. No, you can't hear.
All right. My
Tracy,
apologies.
Tracy was muted too, so we'll just wait for a second.
No, she's,
Oh.
that's good that she is. She's in one time.
It's noisy where I am, so I'm staying muted until called upon.
Okay, I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me.
No worries.
Oh, okay, so I'll try to be as brief as possible in regards to this rebuttal package. It's quite large. It has been presented to the panel for 2021 appeals on many occasions. So I'll just, if it's all right, I'll just point out key facts there. This rebuttal deals with a non-recoverable expense, and in particularly it deals with to explain how non-recoverable expense presented by Altus is to contradict non-recoverable expenses presented by Altus. So the key point there is the rebuttal package justifies the following. It's the historic 5% management expense was in fact an expense relating to the standard management fees charged by the owner. The expenses Altus determined non-recoverable are contrary to the assessment case law in Manitoba and are not to be treated as expenses. The expenses Altus Group determined as non-recoverable are typically important when utilizing a discount cash flow method of analysis. Asset management fees are non-allowable. Operating expenses items. Altus Group analysis of percentage of EMI doesn't exist in appraisal theory and is flawed. The use of medians and rather than averages changes the result of Altus Group's analysis and the conclusions of 5.75 to 4.78%. After analyzing effective gross income for several indices in Altus Group's study, ATD has determined the range of non-recoverable expenses net of vacancy shortfalls is between negative 0.71% and 5.28% of EGI and a median of 1.06%. This has been presented in my presentation. ATD's methodology is consistent with Saskatchewan SAMA and Ontario's MPAC. I will focus board's attention on page 5 of the report, where it states that inclusion of leasing commissions, tenant inducements, tenant improvements, and rent fees is contrary to the municipal board case law. Specific cases are also further presented in the report. So, in short, this report is to further support the non-recoverable expenses of 2%. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Marcello, any questions?
Yes. If you turn to the municipal board order on page 38 of 75 for 50 Lakewood. we can see that there is 5% there and 2% other. Now they've called it management, but our position is that these are simply non-recoverable expenses. These are not recoverable expenses, like as in management expenses. So we've got a difference. Simply, I think we've got a difference here in terms of the word that we're using. But this actually refers to non-recoverable expenses in this decision that you've included in your evidence. It's clearly there. My contention is that your position is that there is no support for non-recoverable expenses.
Well, there is a support to for 2% of non-recoverable expenses, as management expenses are typically fully recovered in the net leases.
Okay, so I'm sure you went through my presentation, correct?
I have reviewed it, yes.
Okay, so may I ask you to go back to page 9 of 71 of my report?
Okay, just give me a second. I need to open it up. Okay, Marcellus, page 8, you say?
9 of 71. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And I think this covers the basis of our argument here, is that what we're trying to point out is the existence of non-recoverable expenses. Now, the city in the past used the terminology management, but in actuality, what they were referring to was a non-recoverable expense, as opposed to a recoverable expense, as in a management expense. So the error in our opinion was simply in using the wrong terminology. What we're actually referring to is non-recoverable expenses. And that can include these items like leasing commissions, tenant improvement allowance, free rent, all of those items that are listed on page 9 of 71. However, for the purposes of what we do, we don't include certain things. For example, financing fees, mortgage interest, owner building maintenance. So we're not saying that the 5% represents a management expense as in a recoverable expense. We're saying that there are expenses of above and beyond that are not recovered, and these are non-recoverable expenses. And I think there's been somewhat of a fixation by the city on simply the use of the terminology here. And I think one of the reasons we've started to call it a non-recoverable expense is simply so we can distinguish between that 5% that we're calling non-recoverable expenses and the 2% other versus the expenses that are recoverable. And if you go through any management or any income and expense questionnaire that the city sends out to our clients, clearly at the very top, you can always see a section for management. That is not what we're referring to. So I'm trying to be clear on that.
Anything further?
Okay, well, I guess if we look at the page 4 of my report, there are municipal board cases that state, and Marcel just stated that they are including things like management expenses, what we are dealing with, like tenant recoveries, tenant inducements, we have municipal board cases, and they are presented on page 4 of our recovery, 4 of 75, where municipal board orders clearly state that those expenses should not be considered as management expenses. So that's where I guess.
Well, we agree with you that there are recoverable expenses that should not be included as non-recoverable expenses. Hence the reason that they're different terms. What we're referring to is a set of non-recoverable expenses that we've outlined in our presentation.
But leasing commissions, tenant inducements, tenant improvements, allowance, and rent frees are shouldn't be included as non-recoverable expenses.
And we don't. And we've said that. We don't include those.
Okay. Then, in a sense, where we so City of Winnipeg, I guess, presented this. We're using 2% because of the study the city did, calculation of the non-recoverable expenses, and I just I guess without going deep into it, would have to say that actually I would ask one more question. So what you're using is 7% as a non-recoverable expense. Is that what you're doing?
2% is other, and I'm just going to make a correction to what I just said, actually, because if you look at page 9 of, or page 10 of 71, we've actually said here the study of non-recoverable expenses 2015 to 2017 operating statements. As indicated, the first column listing the non-recoverable expenses is the standard non-recoverable expense amounts that include these expenses: leasing commissions, professional fees, asset management fees, advertising, and marketing.
So they are included, right?
They are included.
Yeah, and we have municipal cases where it shouldn't be included.
I'm not sure that that's actually correct, what you're saying.
Oh, again, going back to page 4 of our rebuttal expense package, it lists municipal cases where we have.
And you know what? Can I just interject here? I think we've all heard over the last several years.
Yes.
These issues and seen this evidence.
Oh, yeah.
So I would like you to move on, and if this concludes your presentation for this rebuttal, Arca?
I think it does. You're absolutely right. This has been covered many times, as I said in the beginning.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Tracy?
I have no questions, thank you.
Marla?
No questions.
And I have no questions. So Kara?
Yes.
We still have the applicant's cap rate study, right?
Yes, the cap rate and the non-recoverable study were submitted as evidence on the due date.
Okay. So Marcello, would you like to proceed with your cap rate
study? Yeah. This will be fairly quick. If you please turn to page 13. So that's 13 of 35.
Just 1 second. I need to get into the cap rate study. Okay. I'm there.
Okay, so we have our summary list, or we've summarized our cap rates between investment grade A, investment grade B, and non-investment grade. So obviously this is not a non-investment grade property. This, in our opinion, sits in the middle as an investment grade B property. An investment grade A property would be your larger scale industrial properties that are, say, over 100,000 square feet, and there aren't too many of those. So we've given it a 7.25% cap rate. The assessor's cap rate was 7.15. Ours is based on the idea that this is on the bottom end of the scale, meaning 7%, meaning the better properties in this category. However, because of this access situation and the fact that the Waverly Auto Mall connection didn't work out for this dealership, I think gives this property a slight disadvantage. So that is why we've made the quarter point adjustment to it.
Okay, and that's your presentation on this document?
That's it.
Arca, any questions?
Okay, on the same page 13, there are 6 comparables you're using. Are you placing any reliance on those cap rates?
I'm not. I'm placing more reliance on the cap rate range below. There are also other cap rates from brokers here, and you can see them for single A, multi B. They range from 6 to 7, 6.25 to 7.25. Again, AB at the bottom, 6.5, 6 to 6.5, 6.5 to 7.25. And again, on and on. We have provided other cap rates from brokerage firms.
So when I reviewed it, I believe it's page 20. Let me just double check. Pages 27 as well provide some cap rates from other brokerage firms. Would that be correct? Let's see.
Correct.
I just want to make sure that I'm on the right. No, I'm on the. That's not the right. Okay, page 27. I'm just. So page 27 of your report provides cap rate study for the Winnipeg area, and it has all of the sectors listed there: downtown office, suburban office, industrial and retail, multifamily, and hotels. Would you agree with me that when they look at cap rate studies, the range is, if you are to look at office, even industrial and even retail, the highest cap rate you get is 6 point, actually, well, in industrial, you get 7.25 as the highest cap rate, which would be the most high risk investment in the industrial area. 7.25% have cap rate, which would be like the most high risk suburban area investment. Is that how, do you see that?
I do.
Mm-hmm. So, subject property is a brand new building. Would you agree with me on that?
It is a new building, correct?
Yeah, so it automatically would have some adjustments built in for it being new building, because a lot of those buildings are older and would have to account for some degree of higher maintenance if necessary and so on. So looking at this, and I don't know where your aid came from, like all of the indicators, the ones I provided, the ones you provided, the comparables you use, they do not place cap rates above 7.25, like everywhere. Would you agree with me on that?
Would I agree with you? No, I don't agree with you on that. And the cap rate studies that are actually disclosed by these firms account for your typical properties. So are they being adjusted for certain factors like what I've outlined? The lack of location for an auto car dealership. We're not talking about your standard industrial building. Are we talking about the issue of the auto mall and not having a connection to the auto mall?
You know what, Marcello, you made that argument already about the location.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if there's nothing new that we haven't heard,
nope, I don't think there's anything new.
I think I did point out cap rate studies within what City provided and what Marcello himself provided. So I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Tracy, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Marla?
No questions.
And I have no questions. So the last document related to this property, and I believe we've all seen it a number of times, the applicant's non-recovered expense study.
I think we went over it, didn't we? Briefly.
Did we?
Yes, we did. Mhm.
We did. So then that concludes this matter, gentlemen?
Yep.
Arca?
It does.
Thank you very much. The last property on the docket is 200 Newmarket Road. And Arca, if you want to make your presentation.
I will. Just I need to find it first. All right, so file number 21-20, applicant Altos Group Limited, roll number 0309300895, address 200 Newmarket Boulevard, owners MH Refinery District GP Inc. Assessed value $6,327,000, roll year 2020 with the reference date of April 1st, 2018. Vacant land area 421,879 square feet. M2 zoning. I ask the board to confirm the 2020 assessment at $6,327,000. On the following page, I had it blanked out the date there is a post-reference sale on subject property. Value is calculated based on the $15 per square foot rate. That's on page 2. Yeah. Okay, land comparables. I guess we have what you see 7 comparables, but comparable 2, 3, and 4 are in a sense the same comparable, and I'll go over it. So comparable 1 is 1450 Waverly Street at $10.65 per square foot. 300 comparable 2 and comparable 3 are 350 Northtown Road and 400 Northtown Road at $13.79 per square foot. Sold on the same day, 2 parcels. Comparable number 4 is the same 2 parcels sold together for $7.5 million. However, broken down, they come out at $70.22 per square foot. This shows the appreciation of in value between November 7th, 14 to June 17th, 2015. Comparable 5, Keniston Boulevard, again $28.62 per square foot. 1420 Waverly Street, $11.79 per square foot, and property on Fools Boulevard, $15.87 per square foot. Average $15.96, median $13.79 per square foot. Again, City of Winnipeg assesses subject property at $15 per square foot rate. Following pages provide pictures of the comparables used in this presentation. Again, irrelevant pages for this particular property is cap rate, just a standard what goes into the report. So overall, based on the comparables, $15 per square foot for subject property is supported, and I ask the board to confirm it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Marcello, any questions?
I do. In terms of your comparables, you've used I'm sorry, I'm just turning to your page here. You've used several comparables, and I'm focusing on the zoning here. C3, 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 C4 are subject to zone M2, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you give me your purpose for using those C3, 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 and C4 comparables?
Well, I guess main purpose to use Northtown Road comparables is to show the appreciation of values in the property. We do deal with April 1st, 2018 market reference date, and we can see that our sales for M2 properties are 2014, 2016, and 2017. So the value per square foot would have to go up as well with the market.
Okay, you recognize that there is a difference between the M2 zoning and the C zoning, or the M zoning and C zoning, correct?
Zoning are different, I agree. The purpose of this was to present the appreciation of values of properties the closer to the reference date we get. Even with zoning M2, we can see that properties that sold in 2014, which is 1450, comparable number one, 1450 Waverly Street is 1065 per square foot. Then when we go to 2016, it's $11.79 per square foot, 1420 Waverly Street. So again, when you look at it in that respect, you can obviously see the appreciation of values the closer to you get to the reference date. So
I get what you're saying, but are the two types of zoning compatible?
Well, the location of subject property is located as M2 zoning, and that where it will be developed, there's a mix of zoning. It's neighboring properties are already have C zoning. However, as I said before, this is to point out the value increase between 2014 between the newer the sale, the higher price per square foot. Therefore, when we look at them comparables that M2 zoning provides, we have to look at we have to consider we have to consider that the same comparable sold on April 1st, 2018 would have sold for slightly higher price per square foot. That's the reason.
Based on which sale?
Based on Waverly sales, which is 1 and 2, which is M2 zoning, by the way. They're very closely their neighboring properties. And you can see that between February 14 and March 16, there is a price per square foot difference for those. Like the 2016 sale sold for higher price per square foot at $11.79 than 2014 sale at $10.65. We have same property comparable 2, 3, and 4 that have sold originally in 14 for $13.79 per square foot, and then in 2015 they sold for $17.22 per square foot. So that is the purpose of this, to show that the overall market value for vacant land is going up. We are dealing with April 1st, 2018 reference date. So any of those comparables sold on April 1st, 2018 would have sold for higher price per square foot.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Tracy, any questions?
No, thank you.
Marla?
No questions.
I have one question. I realize this property is in Fort Garry by the roll number. Where is Newmarket Boulevard in relation to, say, Bridgewater or Northtown?
Okay. Just give me a second. So subject property in relations to yes, to Bridgewater, just north of it. So that would place it in a location of in the vicinity of just a second, I'll give you exact. I should have had it, my apologies. Okay, it's on in very just east of intersection Waverly and Scurfield.
So is it in Fort Garry Industrial Park?
It is in that would be considered Fort Garry. Let's see. It is in. It's in the new development for the. It's in the Chevrier. What do you call it? Chevrier area. Kind of just, I would place it just outside probably Fort Garry Industrial Park, just west of it, and with that parcel of land being developed as industrial and commercial.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question. Marcello, you're up for your presentation.
Okay. Again, the owner here is MH Refinery District GP Inc. And this is 200 Newmarket Boulevard. And on page 2, you can see my assessment summary. We are asking for a reduction to $4,965,000 or $1,175 per square foot. You can see there on page 3, the gray area denotes the industrial parcels on this development. And you can see the general vicinity of the development. So this is between Waverly and between Pembina, north of Bishop Brandon. And these were, I believe, the sugar beet lands. So many years ago, there was a sugar beet plant in this area. And this land was used as, I guess, the dumping ground for a lot of the byproducts of the sugar beet manufacturing process. So again, this is, I wouldn't say it's rectangular, it's an irregular shaped parcel, very large, 9.7 acres, 422,532 square feet, zoned M2, water, sewer, hydro, and services are in place. The primary road accessing is off of Chevrier and Bishop Brandon. The city of Winnipeg, again, approved the Bishop Brandon Crossing Master Plan in May 2014. This plan outlines land uses within the development as well as density. The subject is located in the MU or employment section. So the M2 zoning is intended to provide for light manufacturing process, service, storage, wholesale distribution operations, with some limited outdoor operations and storage. Again, here you can use the land use map on page 5. And the purple sections are the industrial sections that were intended for this entire development. There are also some residential sections and also some commercial or retail sections. And the stuff that is in the green there is, there are in most developments, a certain portion of the land is dedicated towards parks. So the green area is actually parks. And the highest and best use is determined to be some type of industrial development, flex warehouse most likely. Obviously, the approach that we're going to be using is the sales comparison approach. I stuck to M2 zoning. That is what is dictated in the zoning of the subject. So I looked at M2 sales throughout the city. The most relevant ones are obviously the ones that are located the closest. So 1420 Waverly and Fultz Boulevard are the closest and most relevant. That being said, we know from our previous discussion on 55 Fultz Boulevard that we know that the purchase of Fultz Boulevard was motivated by their intention to be part of the Waverly Auto Mall. And as you know, that fell through. So our belief is that, again, that sale is valid. It is an arm's length transaction, but it was motivated by the fact that they were intending to be part of the Waverly Auto Mall. And in the end, that didn't actually work out. So we have our comparable pictures from page 8 to page 8 to page 17. Our conclusion, the above average of those comparables was $643 per square foot. Obviously, that's not where we're going to go with. So we went with a rate of $11.75 per square foot, which we think is more relevant. Obviously, that's being influenced by Waverly, which we think is the purest sale in that entire sample. And our end value is therefore $4,964,751, and that is rounded to $4,965,000. In the appendix, you can see legislation regulation on classification of properties. Beyond that, you can see the zoning policy. And beyond that, there is some of the advertisements that we saw prior to our studies on land sales working up to the 2020 reassessment. So these were available in spring 2019. However, this advertisement was prior to the reference date. And at that time, these were being advertised for $695,000 per acre. And these are, I believe, 1 acre parcels in the development, industrial. So ours are, I forget what one, I'll see what 1175 per square foot works out to in acreage amounts. 75 times 5. So at 1175 per square foot, that works out to $511,830 per acre. Now, I remind you again that this is a 9.7 acre parcel, not a 1 acre parcel. Okay, so a finished 1 acre parcel is being advertised for $650,000. That's why we think that the assessment is overstated, and we think it should be reduced to the amount that we are recommending. Thank you.
Thank you. Karka, any questions?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. On page 7 of your report, you brought some comparables. You stated that the closest ones are comparable, I guess, well, there is no numbers, but comparable on Waverly, 1420 Waverly and the Fultz. Both of those comparable on Waverly sold in March 21st, 2016. Have you done any time adjustments, or did you think the time adjustment is necessary?
I didn't think a time adjustment was necessary, no.
So you don't think that the market went up between April 1st, 2016 to April 1st, 2018?
Well, I'm sure it went up, but we also know, again, what 1 acre parcels were being advertised for. So I think in terms of how we adjusted it, I think we've adjusted it.
So if the market went up between April 1st, 2016 and April 1st, 2018. Would you agree with me that the property on Waverly, had it sold on April 1st, 2018, would have sold for higher amount than 11.79 per square foot?
Possibly, but again, that is a standalone parcel.
But it is a comparable we're using.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. So those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Marla?
No questions.
And I have no questions, and that concludes the hearing for today. Thank you very much, both parties.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.